The reality is we do believe this trade has legs. So to the extent you have not participated in grid zero or just in reflation type asset exposures in general, definitely, get your buying list ready over the next couple of weeks. So is that, are you seeing similar things on your side of the seat, Nadine?
Yeah, we have same kind of signals, but I'd love to, if you can go to your page 24. I think that you mentioned grid zero, and I think that a lot of people listening probably understand what you're talking about. But I think it probably is helpful to walk through. I found that really interesting, and I'm getting that kind of questions from my clients, is like, what's been going on? And I think it's a lot harder to navigate the grid zero versus when, like, you're in a deep D or a very strong G for growth, because it's been popping around. You had stagflation a little bit, you have now reflation, and maybe talk a little bit about when someone sees these and you've been saying, hey, we're going to get an R. What made you think that? Like, what got you to say, okay, we're going to be heading towards reflation, so people can start to think about whether mimicking your process or understanding like how you foresee that. Because otherwise, if I go to your slide 5, sorry to put a bunch of slides together,
No,
but I
no.
always find this really interesting to look at. If you go to your slide 5, one of the things that someone, if they're just looking at this, just sees a sea of red and blue, right? If you're looking
Mhm.
out from October on, yeah, there's some light color R's there, but you have a lot of reds and blues, but you're talking about reflation now, maybe reflation for a few months. Talk a little bit, I think it's helpful, of like what made you foresee that, and what are you looking to see, like how sticky those R's are?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. And so, going back to, let's start with the premise of the question, which is, this is easy to risk manage when it's, deep something or very obvious something in conditional probability terms. And what those conditional probabilities reflect is really just the distance from the origin on the grid chart. So when you're close to here, all the conditional probabilities will be reasonably flat. That distribution of outcomes will be reasonably flat. The further you get away from here, the more likely it is what the regimes that are represented will become a pull away from the pack with respect to their conditional probability. So, as you mentioned, this setup is very different than the setups we just emerged from with respect to both the bottom up macro regime and the top down market regime. And so, looking forward into this sequence of eyes, we've been talking about this in our notes, really going back to August. When we first noticed the impact of Delta in the July data, we said, hey, we think that growth data are likely to slow into and through the back end of Q3 as a function of Delta. But if the pattern holds, we're likely to see a resolution, a positive resolution of that, starting in Q4. And I do believe we're still on track to get that. And so in layman's terms, what that means is that these eyes right here, again, stagflation is the highest conditional probability for those 2 particular months. We think those probabilities are going to head lower as the growth data starts to recover in October and November. And ultimately, we think these eyes are likely to turn into R's. And that, in my opinion, is what the markets are trying to price in, is this evolution of I's to R's.